Good evening. My name is Richard Cream. I'm Chair of the Permanent Public Building Committee. Welcome to the September 9th, 2024 meeting of the PBBC. Under Governor Baker's emergency order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, issued March 12th of 2020 and in effect until termination of the emergency, meeting of public bodies may be conducted virtually, provided that adequate access is provided to the public. On March 29, 2023, the remote public meeting provision was extended through March 31st of 2025. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded via Zoom and will be uploaded to the town's YouTube channel for publication, later viewing, and administrative purposes. Participating in tonight's meeting are Stuart Chandler, Lynn Denninger, Bob Dermody, and George Kent is, we're awaiting his arrival.
He's arrived.
Oh, Mary.
He's here.
Okay,
George
great.
is here.
Hi, George Kent.
Hello.
Awaiting his arrival is Erwin Silverstein, and I am, as chair, Richard Cream. All votes will be conducted by roll call and recorded as such in the minutes. The first item for business is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of the August 12th, 2024 meeting. The chair is not aware of any comments or amendments or questions regarding the same, but I'll ask one more time if anyone has any comments with respect to the minutes. Hearing none, we will deem the minutes to be accepted and they will be filed accordingly. Thank you. The next item for business is the Emery Grover project. And with that, I'll pass the microphone on to Ken.
Thank you, Rick. All right, where are my pictures? Here are my pictures. We'll go through the progress pictures to start, and we'll go through the rest of the agenda. Just some basic interior shots here of the progress. Gives you a look of some of the window shades installed. The kitchen. This is the front lobby. Obviously, they still have to do touch up on the wall. The building has now been cleaned, but when I pulled these pictures last week, it got cleaned on Friday. So it looks all nice and neat now. The EV charger stations. Just another look. The elevator, the main elevator lobby, front elevator lobby. This is the north portico from the outside. You can see some of the trim is up. This is pretty much all trimmed in now, so all the blue wrap has been covered. The back parking lot, which has now been striped.
Thanks.
This is the addition with the paneling on it. They still have to come and finish the roof. I think they'll be working on that tomorrow. This is that fill-in the conference room at the old main entrance. And they were repainting that today. This is the ceiling in the north portico with the beadboard installed. Typical look of the hallways with the glass windows. They were actually doing the frosting on the glass today for all these glass windows. Some of the landscaping in the front. And that's it for the pics. Anybody got any questions on that?
Will there be railings in the front there, Ken?
Yes, we got a ridiculous price from the sub, so we're going off on our own.
Okay.
Beautiful job.
So let me pop up the agenda here.
Certainly looks nice from the outside. Looks great.
And the inside has cleaned up quite well with all the temporary floor covering gone.
So the work's substantially complete, as you can see. Items of note to still completed: the main entry door, some of the site signage, which they were putting in today. We're still about 3 weeks or so off for the monument sign, though. In the interior, if you notice in that picture they showed of the elevator lobby, there was just vinyl on the steps. I think I may have mentioned at the last meeting, I can't recall, but the quarry quarried the wrong kind of granite that for those steps. So we put the vinyl in temporarily, and the granite's another 2-3 weeks off. We're expecting the temporary certificate of occupancy the last week of September. Furniture install is starting next Monday, and the move-in is targeted for October 1st.
And
Questions on
how
the schedule?
significant is the punch list, Ken?
Not very. They did I don't have the lower level punch list yet, but for 1, 2, and 3, they figure it's less than a week when they get the subs back on site.
So
The
they'll
painter
be
is
bringing
there.
them
The
in,
painter's there. I'm sorry, George?
right? They'll be bringing them all in at once.
Well, the painter's there now because he had still touch-ups to do. So he can move right into the punch list. And the electricians are there. We have some stuff for the ceiling guy, and then there's some other minor stuff for the other trades, but nothing substantial for those. It's mostly cosmetic.
So within the next 2 weeks, you'll have it essentially
Yeah, well,
complete.
we want to get it done before next week when the furniture starts coming in. Because we want to be
Well-
able to say if there are any dings in the wall, the furniture people did it. It's not part of the punch list, but we do have it all documented. So if we have any arguments, I can point to that if the furniture people start barking about being back charged for damages.
Yeah.
All right, the ACL is few new things on here. Again, as I mentioned last month, the trash doors and the site railings, items 2 and 3 on there, we're going another direction, so those numbers are likely to come down. But I'm keeping the worst case scenario in there. The only 2 items of note are the entry post at the north portico. The card readers and the intercom needed different kinds of posts, so we have 2 posts out there now. And then there are IT changes, excluding the electric work, but that number is being charged to that, and the top number will be charged to the IT/AV budget. So it will not come out of the contingency. And the budget that I sent you reflects that as it being part of those line items, as opposed to being the contingency being whacked for that.
What does entry posts at the north portico mean?
It's where the for the entry doors, it's the card reader, the automatic opener for the for ADA, and the key card access.
So it's the stuff on the posts, not the posts.
Well, it's both, because originally it was just for the ADA, and now it's got the other items on it.
Okay.
Any other questions on the ACL?
So
All
the summation number reflects that, the 187 or something.
Correct.
Reflects.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
And that will only get better, I think, is what you indicated. When
Correct.
the numbers come down.
That's correct. It may come down, 10 to 20,000. Yes.
So we may be in the $200,000 range.
Yes. Why
Okay.
does it keep doing this? All right, Stuart, if we could, not Stuart, Richard, I'm sorry.
Oh,
We
no
can do
worries.
the change order first.
Sure. Okay,
And the change order this month consists of, I have to apologize, my Word has expired. So I'm running on an unlicensed product right now. The 3 items in the change order are the electrical revisions. This is the GC delay, not the GC delay, but the cost for the GC due to the delay. Again, this number comes out of the IT AV budget, and as does the second number, the third number. Actually, all 3 of these numbers do. Excuse me, half of the first number, so 40,000, 55, so roughly 100,000 come out of the IT/AV line item, and only 40,000 of this change order actually hits the contingency. So any questions on that? Otherwise, Richard, you can go to a vote on that, please.
Terrific. Thank you, Ken. The chair will move that the committee approve the change order from M. O'Connor Contracting, that's number 17, in the amount of $139,509.37. This is for Emery Grover and the general contractor's budget. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
I'm sorry. Aye.
thank you. And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Okay. The next item. Oh, can we go to the PSS? Do you want to address
Yeah,
that?
that doesn't, that, you can take that, you can just go in order or whatever order you want, Richard, doesn't. The only reason I wanted to change the order is the invoice from M. O'Connor includes some of the items in the change order.
Got it. Okay. All right, we then come to the PSS. The chair moves that the committee approve the PSS from BH+A. That's number 14. And that's for September 2024. And that's in the amount of $18,333.00. And that's coming out of the architectural budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Any discussion on the motion? Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you.
Quick question, Ken. This will now cover all their fees? This is the
Yes.
last one?
Yes. Yeah, we had done, if you recall, we had done one to extend them after June 1st. That's what
Right.
the next invoice is for
Right.
for that extension. This takes them now through September. And like I said, we hope to have the TCO by the end of the month, so that covers that.
Great. All right, we'll proceed to the invoices then. The first, the chair moves that the committee approve the requisition for payment from M. O'Connor Contracting for requisition number 21 through August of 2024 in the amount of $620,248.18 coming out of the general contractor's budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Discussion on the motion, questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
thank you. Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. Next item, item is a pair of invoices from BH+A. The chair moves that the committee approve the following invoices for payment from BH+A. July 2024 Emery Grover, PSS number 11, window test, and July 2024 Emery Grover, PSS number 12. Those invoices are respectively $3,850 even and $18,333 even, for a total of $22,183 even, all coming out of the architect's budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Michael. Discussion on the motion as to either or both of the invoices. Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. And the next item or next invoice is just one question, Catherine, the RCN, oh, I see, we're doing, okay. Okay. The next item for consideration is invoice number, or actually an invoice from RCN Telecom Services of Massachusetts. That's for fiber optic installation. That's in the amount of $5,175. The chair will so move. Is there a second?
Second,
Thank you. Actually, I guess, Catherine, is the intention that all three of these invoices, the Vanderweil and Signworks, they all be lumped together as one?
You could lump them all together in one vote.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to
The
amend my motion.
Vanderweil one, Richard, the
Sorry?
Vanderweil one, I got a typo on the Vanderweil one in the sheet, so pay no attention to the 5664.
Oh, okay, all right.
I
Well,
believe it's just 664.
the chair is going to make an amendment to his original motion. There are three invoices that we're going to cover with this motion. The first being, as I mentioned, the RCN Telecom Services of Massachusetts, $5,175. The second being invoice from RG Vanderweil in the amount for July 2024 commissioning in the amount of $664. And finally, an invoice from Archetype Signworks for the building plaque in the amount of $2,699. It's $2,699 for an aggregate of $8,538.00. That's all from the miscellaneous budget. I'm going to ask for a reseconding of that amended motion.
Reseconded.
Thank you, Michael. Any discussion as to any of the three invoices in this lot?
Just a quick question on the RCN. So that was to move where their fiber optic came in, because they did have fiber optic to the building, right?
They did, yes, but
Yeah,
it came in off of a pole
Right.
between the nursery school and us. Now they had to just take it right off the pole at the street and run it underground.
Right. So they just moved it over. Okay, thank you.
And Ken, one quick question, the building plaque, when do you anticipate that will be installed, or has it already been installed?
It's at their shop and it's being delivered to us tomorrow.
Okay,
is it just me or is that an expensive plaque?
That's pretty standard for what
Yeah.
we've paid recently.
Yeah,
Wow.
I thought it was a fair, but when the price came in, George, I thought it was a fair price.
Was it? Okay.
I'm trying to remember what we paid for public safety. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it
was in the
didn't
same-
scare us.
It was in the same ballpark.
Was it bronze?
Yes, cast
Yes.
bronze.
Yeah.
Same as all the other ones we've been doing.
Yeah, okay.
great. And Ken, where will that be installed? In the north portico?
No, just inside where you come in the main door
Mhm.
on the left, just before you go up the stairs.
Great. Okay. We'll be on the lookout for it when we we
You go.
visit the site. Terrific. Okay, any other questions or comments on this set of invoices before we move to a vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. And finally, we have a pair of invoices from CCS Presentation Systems. They are, the first invoice is to covers for electrical and data boxes in the amount of $505.44. The second is for design services in the amount of $4,000 even, for a total of $4,505.44. The chair moves the two invoices aggregating $4,505.44. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this particular set of invoices?
Ken, just a quick one. The $4,000, does that cover equipment and services both, or just services, or,
Just services for the third floor conference room.
okay. And what kind of AV system do we have there? Just a curiosity.
I've not seen the design yet, George. That's IT's handling that. That comes out of their budget.
Oh, I see.
Their line items, so.
Okay,
Any other
And-
discussion or questions?
It
Okay.
it will be delayed in terms of its installation. Just because of our tightness on the other budget.
okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the set of invoices? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye,
Michael,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you. I think that concludes our invoices for the Emery Grover. Any other questions or comments, discussion items for Emery Grover?
Yeah, if I could, I've gotten a lot of comments from, I shouldn't say a lot. I've had commentary over the last week of people either seen the building or have talked about it. It's got great reviews. We know it, we're part of it, we've walked through it. And certainly the pictures that you showed, Ken, it's pretty amazing, I'm sure. And Michael, all you guys are really excited with the coming to fruition, but I just wanted to pass along, I heard from just the general public, just pretty good excitement about it.
It's very gratifying to hear. That's wonderful, especially given the fact that so many people had wanted to tear down the building.
And
Okay.
if we want to arrange another walkthrough, we could do so for the committee.
Perfect. Yeah.
And maybe I don't know if we want to discuss timing on that or we wait until after the building opens.
Well, I think that, I'm fine with either approach. I guess in some ways it would be nice to see the building fully occupied, but we don't want to obviously interrupt the workflow in the building. So perhaps maybe in that interim period, once the furniture is delivered, that might make the most sense. So we can see it as it will look for the employees when they arrive.
So that would put us at the end of September.
Sounds good. Generally, I think, I'm not sure, I can only speak for myself, but generally Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays work best for me. And certainly on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I think late afternoon would be good. But
is there an event scheduled yet for the building, a dedication kind of event?
No, not that I'm aware of.
And who would do that? Dan?
That would be up to Dan, sure.
Yeah,
okay.
And I would think we would want to, I mean, I haven't talked to Dan, but I think at some point we should invite town meeting members to come through the building to see, what they supported. I think that's just very helpful. We're not asking for anything, we just want to thank them. We want them to see what they did because, if you're a town meeting member and you don't have kids in the school, you may not ever go in the building. You may not go, so I think, and I haven't talked to Dan about it, but I'm sure that's something I think we should do.
that's true.
Yes, Bob?
It'd be also nice to tell them that we come in under budget.
That's right.
$1.
Not by much, but
All right.
Well, it doesn't, it's better than being over budget.
you're absolutely right, George. You're
I'd like to
absolutely right.
recognize Bob. Bob's question.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Yeah, we don't have to say how much, but under is a good word. Has there been any communication with CPC? When I was on that committee, there was talk from that end of some kind of acknowledgement of the different projects around town. I think it got done on the town common project, actually, that, the public funds from CPC help support this project. I don't know if there's been any communication between our end or school committee or whomever with CPC. And that's more of a very general sort of philosophical question.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because we often just don't really identify that CPC contribution directly. I mean,
I
we
think
know it, we know it generally,
Right.
but we often don't. And it's good for the people in the town to know that this was a combined effort of where your taxes, not only where your taxes are coming from, but that some of it's coming from CPC.
Right, yeah, it's not for the committee, it's for the people who pay the taxes, exactly.
Right.
And I've seen it in other towns.
Yeah.
And I think something we might want to look into.
Do we need another bronze plaque? Is that what you're saying?
No, not bronze.
No,
It doesn't
no.
have to be bronze. That's all, Rich. Thanks.
You bet. Any other questions or comments? All right, very good. So we'll be in touch regarding a walkthrough and more to follow on that. Terrific. Okay, we'll move on then to the RTU replacement at Elliott and Broadmeadow. And for that, I believe I'll recognize Ken.
Thank you. Small package, a few invoices, a copy of the budget. You know, obviously I'll just say halfway through the total project because we've got next summer at Broadmeadow also. But the status at Elliott is everything's up and running. Everything's been balanced. They're doing the final control work. I'm told that that will be done by the end of this month. They will be turning on the air source heat pump and testing that on the 24th. And so at the end of the month, we can look to have that pretty much closed out. We'll still have training to do and the usual little stuff that comes up as you continue to use the equipment. And once we get into the fall and we start using the heaters, we'll see how that all coordinates. But other than that, there's really no. I didn't have any pictures to show because it's really no different than it was the last set of pictures I showed. The other one thing they are doing is the refrigerant piping on RTU2. They were insulating that today, so that should be done. They were about halfway through when I saw it. So.
Ken, just put a question
We'll go
for you, if I may. It's going to be rather warm, I guess, forecast for the second half of the week. No issues in terms of cooling.
No, I'm not worried. I mean, Barry could answer that better than me because he gets the calls, but the units are all up and running.
Good.
And I know we had one, correct me if I'm wrong, Barry, we had one warm area, but that's been a problem for a while, even with the old system. So that just needs to get balanced out, I guess.
Oh, mute.
You're muted, Barry.
I heard my name, Barry. I'm like, I have to get back before my name's called. I figured that was gonna.
I was just mentioning what you and I had talked about one area of the building that you've been having trouble with being warm is still being warm, but it's something
At Elliott?
endemic. Yeah, at
You
Elliott.
talking about the Elliott?
Yeah.
That's no, it was the nurse's office in that one little area in the administration department.
Oh, okay.
Which we had consistent issues with. And the only other section was where that makeup air unit was constantly sucking in outside air all summer long. And the machines just couldn't keep up with the humidity because of the combustion air that was needed for the water heaters and the boilers. So that's gone. That's got a VFD now. It's only going to come on whenever there's a need for combustion air. And that eventually will be eliminated next year when I put in the new Lochinvars. So no, the building is, even though I don't have full control over it yet, the building is, there's there's no complaints. There was one complaint, it was too cold. So that's always good.
It's going to get warmer in the second half of this week, so we'll put it to the test.
Yeah, no, it's so far as I know, I mean, it's operating very well. Again, I don't have full control and visibility of the controls yet to really get into it, but we're doing good.
Good.
That'll be cool by the heat pump.
Can't wait to see that thing running. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, startup's the 24th on that.
Yep.
Excellent.
For the heat pump?
Yeah.
So we won't be next week, we won't be cooling with a heat pump.
No, it's for reheat, George. It's for,
Oh, is it?
it's to keep the boilers offline because they're very finicky with low load. So in the
Okay.
summertime, when I need to warm up the air a
Yeah.
little bit, so the rooms aren't, 55 degrees, we're gonna use that heat pump instead of the gas-fired boilers.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments before we get into the change order and invoices for our RTU?
I had one
Yeah,
quick
go ahead,
one,
Mark.
and that is, we're on budget for this part of the project?
Yes, yes, actually, you'll be voting on the first change order. We're through the project and you'll be voting on the first change order that totals like, I think, 14 grand.
But so there's
And
still
we're-
money left in the contingency for this first phase?
Well,
Close.
we didn't really separate it into phases. There's just an overall contingency for the whole project. But we
Okay.
virtually our whole contingency left. And
Okay.
we're done with this half of this roughly half of the project.
Great.
Terrific.
Music to my ears.
Definitely. All right, I guess we can proceed then to the change order. Ken, maybe would you like to comment on what it consists of?
Yeah,
Right.
there's two items here. Both were result of design snafus. One was the condensate on RTU 3 and 4 is on the wrong, I'll say the wrong side of the unit in the sense that there are no drains on the side that it was on. So we had to repipe the condensates around 180 degrees to get them around so that they went into the drains there on the roof. And the other piece was gas piping for the kitchen, where they cut the gas piping was done as designed, but it was cut before the T where it ran into the kitchen. So they had to come back and repipe to pick up the gas so that it would serve the kitchen. And those are the two change orders.
I have one on the voting list for 14 grand. You're saying that it consists of two items?
It consists of there's two
Got it.
pieces.
Yeah, okay.
Roughly 10 and 4.
Yep, got it. Okay. Any other questions or comments before we move to that motion? Yes, Barry?
Sorry, and I should have asked this earlier. I see you guys every day. What was the change order for the PVC for the drain? Was that 4 grand?
No, the drain was the 10 grand.
And it included all piping for all 4 RTUs, not just 2.
They
10 grand.
ended up doing all
Okay.
4 to get it around to the drain.
No, I know, I saw them. I mean, right, then rightly so. We missed that, but all right, thanks.
All right, the chair will move that the committee approve the change order from Enterprise Equipment Company, change order number 1 for the Elliott RTU project in the amount of $14,639 even. That's out of the general contractor's budget. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, George, or Lynn, whoever won the race. Any questions or comments before we take the roll call vote? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
okay, Ann,
Aye.
Barry.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. The next item is the chair will move that the committee approve the requisition for payment from Enterprise Equipment Company for requisition number 10 through August 2024 in the amount of $229,154.25. That's out of the general contractor's budget. Is there a second on that particular motion?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, George.
Somebody, anybody?
Yeah, I think George seconded. Is there any discussion or questions or comments with respect to this invoice? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Barry.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Next invoice, and the final one, and for the RTU project, is the chair will make a motion or move that the committee approve the invoice for payment from NV5. That's for August Broadmeadow commissioning, and that's in the amount of $1,174.84 from the miscellaneous budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second,
Thank you, George. Any questions, comments, or discussion with respect to this invoice? Hearing none, we will proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
aye.
Ann,
Aye.
Barry.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. I think that concludes the change order and invoices for the RTU project. Any other questions or comments before we move on to the next agenda item? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much for all who participated. And we proceed on to the next item, which is the DBW Complex Phase 1. And for that, I believe I'll recognize Hank.
Yes, the working group has made great progress in terms of the schematic design. And with us tonight, Mike Richard and Dave Steves and Tyler are all here from Weston and Sampson. We've gone through several iterations on that design. And what I sent out was a slideshow and then a focus on two options, option number 2 and option number 6. And tonight, what I'll be asking the committee to do is to narrow it down to a preferred option so the design team can move forward with that preferred option. There was also a matrix that kind of ranked the two options. And some of the items are subjective and others are fairly direct. So David, are you going to take over from here in terms of do you want to share your screen?
I think Tyler's going to kick us off. We'll
Okay.
get going and then we'll go through the options and take a look from there.
I'd like to welcome our guests. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Let's see if I can.
Thank you.
Here we go. Let me know when it comes up. So we'll just do a quick.
You're good.
Okay. All right, so we just want to do a brief overview for you folks for the project thus far. We'll do a quick update on the project schedule, some highlights on what we've completed thus far, and as Hank mentioned, a review of the conceptual development and decision matrix. So an update on the schedule. Our next schematic design deliverable is shooting for October 25th with a cost estimate reconciliation shortly after in mid-November. And then our long-term goals for the project are to start permitting in March, have bid opening in late September in advance of the town meeting in October 2025. Some of the things we've completed today thus far is a program confirmation, the wetland flagging's completed, existing conditions completed. We have a hydrant flow test scheduled for later this week. We're in the progress of scheduling geothermal test wells, as well as the geotechnical borings as well. And as Hank mentioned, we've made some good progress on the conceptual development, which is the focus of this presentation today. Before we get into the two concepts, like Hank had mentioned, I just wanted to orientate everyone to the plans. Off to the left is the RTS facility. We got the nearest abutter off to the right, and Central Ave is down below. The gray area is the existing seasonal storage garage, and then the yellow is the proposed maintenance facility. And you guys may recognize this. This is the preferred study concept. And when we started design, we wanted to take a fresh look at this. We wanted to make sure whatever was progressed was the right layout for the town. To make sure we were moving in the right direction. And as Hank had mentioned, we did a bunch of different concepts. We looked at 6, and with the working group, we were able to narrow it down to 2 and 6, which we wanted to look a little bit further into today. So this is an overview of concept 2. And I guess, Dave, do you want to do a little highlight of these options? Or do you want me?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. I would imagine that the committee is aware that this is a new maintenance facility that is going to be integrated into the existing out-of-season storage building, the Jack Cogswell building. And I have some photos of that existing building if you want to kind of get the lay of the land and see the context of what's there. But essentially, we are now looked at a number of options of how best to integrate a new maintenance operation from what was really just a storage and out-of-season storage for the vehicles and equipment for the public works. So here you can see, and can I point around, Tyler?
I
How
don't
do
know
I?
if I can. I can just point it to you if you say it.
Okay. Well, to the upper left-hand corner of this site, and this is option 6. So we'll just, and if folks have a question, please jump in and, because I'll just kind of give an overview and then we can go back and answer any really detailed specific questions. But you can see in the upper left-hand corner is the existing building, the Jack Cogswell building, and the horizontal bar where you see the arrows going out. Those are large overhead garage bay doors that access the large pavement apron in front of that, so vehicles and equipment can be staged and move in and out. And that's an enclosed, unheated or minimally heated cold storage building. And then the vertical bar to the left is an open canopy structure. So that's just a covered canopy for equipment that doesn't need to be in an enclosed space, but undercover to keep it out of the protection from snow and rain. So we looked at a couple of options. One was really, this is one of our first ideas of taking a fresh look from the preferred alternative that we had gone through from a feasibility study level to take a deeper dive and to say, really, to make sure we cover all our bases, that we're, providing the best approach and the most efficient operational new facility and how it integrates into the existing site. This is a freestanding, structurally independent option. And we showed the different elements of the program in a color-coded way. So the main programmatic elements are in the light purple. You can see that's the real working part of what this facility is about, which is the maintenance, vehicle maintenance bays. And those are single depth, 5 maintenance bays with 1 drive-through bay, second one in, and which takes some rework and of the existing driveway and parking area space. We can get into the details of that in a little bit, but this building is essentially a bar building with an L support space. So adjacent to the maintenance bays are, you can see in the light red, are the support spaces. So that parts storage, fluid storage room, tool storage crib. And then right adjacent to those yellow spaces are offices. So you have the fleet supervisor office and a shared reference area office. To the L part, to the northern of the bar, and I should say the purple is a double height space. So you have the height for lifts and overhead bridge crane for lifting vehicles to be able to maintain and get underneath the vehicles. So that portion to the north of the bar is a single story structure, which has your muster room, which is a training multi-purpose room, as well as the emergency operations center and a locker and toilet area with a shower. So that is all employee facility space that supports the main bar double height space of the operation. Now, why I say it's double height in the light purple area, it's also, and I think you can flip to the next one, Tyler. there is a mezzanine space above that parts room and support spaces. So that's a complete singular volume with a lower portion to the north of this simple bar. So as you can see, it's an opposing, the layout on the site, it's an opposing L configuration, kind of juxtaposed to the existing facility. And you can see that how a vehicle might come in and navigate through the site. We have 74 feet, and which we will fine tune, but roughly a 70-foot clearance for turning radius for large vehicles and equipment in tow. So it makes kind of site circulation a little constricted, but workable and usable. So the advantages here is really that it's an independent structure. So we don't really have to modify the existing building, with the exception of a couple of small upgrades where we want to convert one of those equipment storage bays into a short-term maintenance bay, just for oil changes, belt changing, and just quick maintenance to keep vehicles on the road. And then we were also considering that we may have a covered wash bay in the lower left portion of the existing open canopy structure. But those modifications are consistent between the schemes, as we're trying to get some program out of the existing building that will support this new facility.
If I may, just one question. One thing that attracted me to concept number 2 is that I like the fact that the parking area is kind of tucked away in the back there, like that. And maybe you could comment on the thinking about that and pros and cons of having the parking in that area.
Well, the cons is that the employees are a little ways from the entrance to the building. And I should have mentioned, so thanks for pointing this out, that the main entrance we're considering at this point is at the intersection of the 2 L legs of the building. The white portion in the plan is circulation. So the main entrance is there. So the employee parking is a little bit of a walk from this building directly. So it's remote to the building. It does need to extend the parking area to make that parking, and navigating to it, it's a little bit of an S-turn to get there and pull in and then back out. You can imagine the 3-point turning that you may need to do even in a personal vehicle, which a large number of public works employees drive pickups. But if it's just a regular car, it's a little bit of circulation. Now, one of the, I guess, compromises to this being an independent structure is that the large vehicle turning in the open yard area and in the apron spaces that access both of the garage bay doors, both on the maintenance side, because those, I failed to mention, have large overhead garage bay doors that also open to the central parking area. So that's kind of a shared space, and large vehicles moving in and out has a little bit more of a constricted circulation. So there are some pluses and minuses. That the pluses is that the personal vehicles are kind of remote, not halfway, but the large vehicle circulation is a little more restricted.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate
it.
Yep. Another question about that parking area up there. The space behind it, I'm thinking of winter conditions when you're going to plow that area. The space behind it is enough to just dump it off the back there?
Yes, it is a wetland area, and this comes into play when we'll talk about option 6, that we want to kind of minimize the impact to the wetlands. So we would have to stay really to the upper back portion of that parking area. But yes, that's one consideration. But
plus, there's not a lot of employees that are going to be on this site.
I think we have 6 we're planning for 6 full-time employees.
And how many
Yeah.
spaces? Looks like you about got a dozen spaces there.
Well,
So
there are, yes,
the
there's visitor
breakdown,
parking.
the breakdown for the parking spaces, we're shooting for 18, and that was to cover 6 employees. There are 3 divisional vehicles that park here overnight and are there throughout the day. Got a couple visitor parkings, and then also parking spots for vehicles that are being serviced for being picked up and dropped off for service
Yep, and delivery.
and delivery. Yep.
Yeah.
So
so,
this is a little bit short of what we were shooting for.
I think it's
Um,
also important to point out that the retaining wall, there's a retaining wall necessary in the heavy black line there, and that the height of the building, or I should say the high point of the site, is about the same as the height of the building. So the building would be tucked right against the rock face in that area.
Yeah, the finished floor is roughly 170 and the high point's roughly 200. So it's about a 30-foot cut into the ledge here.
One other consideration is that and I don't know if you have an existing site plan, but essentially this building is located on what is mostly the existing limit of pavement, because the current design or the current facility as constructed has a sheet flow drainage to a detention basin just below or page south of where the maintenance bays are located in this scheme. So this scheme would necessitate some regrading and reworking of how the drainage works on site. So related to snow removal, but also how water and drainage will need to be accommodated on site.
Yep.
One more question, if I could. The
Sure.
Emergency Operations Center, what
Yes.
is that for? Obviously
That is-
for emergency operations, but what are emergency operations happening at this location?
That provides the town the flexibility if they want to manage storm events from this facility.
Okay,
So during a storm emergency where contractors would come and get their assignment of the areas of the town to plow and to salt. But that's actually an operational decision that the Public Works is still coordinating.
well, that comes out of the building on Dedham Avenue now, all of it.
It's currently in 470.
Yeah.
In the feasibility study, it was proposed to be in phase 2 and constructed as part of the expansion and renovation to the 6-bay garage. So this pulls, it's either redundant or it's duplicative, or
It sounds-
replace that one.
I doubt if that's big enough for everything. And so it appears to be redundant, and we could name it that, but it's more likely empty space at this point, unless there's a lot of equipment that you need to put in there for emergency operations, probably just communications equipment.
It
But that would be
primarily
redundant.
be staff. There'd be 2 or 3 desks in there, which they need when they're operating for snow emergencies.
Okay,
So it was a nice to have, but not a must to have in this phase 1.
Yeah. Option 6 actually doesn't show it on in the plan.
Well, yeah, I want to speak to that, Tyler. So are there any other questions on this? We can go back if there's specifics.
I don't
We
know.
can compare and contrast once we look at both.
Okay, I'll go to 6.
Okay, this is also a bar option, and it looks like it's attached to the existing a cold storage facility, but it's actually, it would be structurally isolated from it. So there would be a low, maybe 14-foot high roof, which would be, as you can see at the connection between the existing structure, you see that white, that would be a circle that represents circulation, which would be an entry vestibule lobby, which connects these two buildings. And that would be a lower roof because we can't have snow drift that would add load to the existing building. So we need to really keep it structurally kind of independent, even though it's connected. But just to jump on, is there a quick question?
Yeah,
Somebody
could you just zoom in slightly? I'm having a tough time seeing.
I don't know if I can zoom in on this.
Okay, I'll try harder to look.
Here, I may be able to make some magic happen for you guys though. If you want to keep going, I could just pull it up on Bluebeam and then we could look at it better.
Sure. I totally sympathize. I have one of these. I don't know if you can see my screen. I'm always using the magnifying glass. I mean, it's that time. But anyway, I actually might have to. Here again, you can see in the light purple, the maintenance bays. Now, on option 2, there were single depth maintenance bays. Here we have 4 bays, but 2 of them are double depth. So you can actually get 2 vehicles. So they're much deeper. These are 80 feet deep. So we have 2 standard depth bays and then 2 double depth bays. So you actually have one, even though it's a little more coordination of needing to pull a vehicle out and then one in if you're using that second bay, even though one of the double depth bays here is a drive-through bay, so you can pull straight out. But this gives you a little bit more flexibility in your operation and one additional maintenance bay, which is advantageous when you have a vehicle that's waiting for parts and you can put in one of the back bays without taking up one of your critical bays. They can stay in the back for a long-term maintenance operation. So you can see it's a very similar layout and honestly a very similar scheme, but just a different orientation and integration into the site. Other than the small, low, single-story connection to the existing building, the maintenance bays are double height space, and then the mezzanine continues over the spaces that you can see in the light red, which is the parts storage and the fluid storage room. You can see there in the light orange, the maintenance multi-purpose room. And we say multi-purpose because that's exactly what it is. When we look back at 2, you'll see it's much smaller. This programmatically is equivalent in size. So this room, the EOC, would be used here at the multi-purpose room if that operation was to be here. But if it doesn't, this is used for training, for meetings, gathering, lunch facilities. And so it has multiple functions that would operate out of that space. Oh, good job, Tyler.
Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay, this is just zoomed in.
And then off of this common connecting lobby, which we see as kind of a glassy, open, light-filled space, you can see the locker and toilet shower area. So kind of the public spaces off of the lobby. And again, you can see the fleet supervisor office and then the shared reference and parts manager office, which open directly to the maintenance floor, which is a big advantage to the operation to have kind of tacit eyes on the daily workflow from the offices. So that's a good adjacency and connection that isn't one advantage of this scheme. You can see on the upper right-hand corner where the parts, which is a little bit of an oversized part storage, but we trimmed back the corner to keep it out of the wetlands, 100-foot wetlands buffer. So just a kind of a minor detail there. You can see, and both of the schemes have the drive-through wash bay and a a little bit larger welding bay. And this option has an exterior wash pad. So vehicles that are coming in for service, they go in, they get washed down, they get cleaned, and then they can go in and get work done. So that's a kind of a critical part to the functionality of this facility. One kind of final thing on this layout is that you can see in the other option, you had a 70-foot diameter turning radius. This is 120 feet. So vehicles can come in much more, ladder truck for the fire department can come in, do a full 360 to access the site. Vehicles have kind of clear turning and circulation clearance for operational efficiency. We think that's one advantage to having this more open and more flexible for usability. Again, the parking, we have it along where the detention basin to the south edge of the existing pavement area, it would not need to be replaced. That would be existing to remain. And the parking along that edge, albeit still, again, remote to the main entrance, but adequate parking kind of utilizes that edge that wouldn't otherwise be used very efficiently by maintaining this existing drainage detention basin. And the one last thing, you can see that the pavement does extend towards the right of the page, and that's to accommodate vehicles that would access the maintenance bay in a drive-through, and maybe you'd have an out-of-service vehicle that comes in on a wrecker, you bring it in, and you drop it off in the bay, and the wrecker can pull through and drive and loop around, or just being able to drive out a vehicle that's complete in maintenance, their maintenance service ticket. So it offers some flexibility to have that. That's a nice to have option as well. Not a must have, but really helps the operation if that's possible to get in. I mean, we've designed multiple facilities, and the drive-through bays is a good to have, but you're not always able to get it, and that's still, as
Dave,
we
I-
finalize the design to be confirmed.
We're running a little short on time, but maybe I could ask you to take a look at the walk us through the matrix where the two competing conceptions were analyzed in terms of rating. Just kind of walk us through that very quickly.
Yep. So in order to help compare the two, we pulled together this matrix, and we, as you can tell, I'll zoom in a little bit, but we came up with a bunch of different criteria to help kind of determine which would be the best for the town. We broke it up into high, medium, and low priority, high being weighted the most. So some examples of high priority are, does it meet the current and future needs, ledge removal, and limit of work. And the way we did this was that did the concept 2 meet this better, or did concept 6 meet it better? And we gave them a 1 or 2 on all of these. And like I said, high priority was multiplied with a 5, medium was 3, and low priority was 2. And when you look at each one of these concepts and you total all of the points, option 6 ended with 121 points, and option 2 was 102. So we can look at this. That's basically a quick highlight of the decision matrix.
Terrific.
What's
Very,
the-
very helpful. Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a cost differential that's significant? Is that in here?
We haven't looked at the costs yet, but I did look at these concepts when comparing them to the initial feasibility study. The concept 2 is roughly the same square footage as the feasibility study. Option 6 is a little bit more. I think it's 1,000 square feet more. But the assumed mezzanine square footage is way lower on both of them. And the total development area that was assumed in the feasibility study was a little bit more than what these are coming out to be. I also looked, the feasibility study assumed 4,600 cubic yards of ledge removal. The option 2 was significantly lower than that, roughly around 800 cubic yards, and the option 6 was kind of in line with that at 4,300. So just at the big cost standpoint items, we're kind of in line with the feasibility study, but we're hoping to dial that number in more with our feasibility deliverable in October.
But between the two though, Tyler, we think that they're both going to relatively would be about the same cost. Building wise, they're very similar. Similar square footage, similar type of construction and materials. So the buildings wouldn't change hugely. The two factors that would really impact the cost is how much ledge is going to need to be removed.
Right.
And the other is how much site work and site regrading would be required. And I think there's a little more ledge potentially for option 6. And there's going to be more site reworking, now an underground Caltech water detention system that needs to be installed. So there we see a lot of trade-offs, and the really pretty equal at this point of the design.
Well, I think certainly option 6 is looking better and better to me. Lynn, you have a question?
I was going to ask about the drainage. It seemed to me that 6 was going to be more problematic, but you're saying 2 is more problematic in terms of runoff and drainage with the high point and the retaining wall and everything that goes with it.
Yeah, the existing facility was designed at a time we didn't anticipate that we were going to be adding another structure to the site. So from the existing overhead garage bay doors, where you see the arrows on those existing, that's the high point of the site. It's relatively flat because it's a paved area, and it drains straight down into the existing detention basin, which is sizable. So it takes all the site runoff currently and then infiltrates it into the existing ground.
Well, actually, it's all ledge here, so this is just bioretention that filters it, and then it sends it off to the wetland where it infiltrates over here. But
And how about at the retaining wall? Because the high point seems like it's hitting both of these schemes in a odd location.
Yeah.
And you have that other bioretention area to the right there. So you're assuming that would take the infiltration from the rooftop as well as the back drive.
yeah, in option 6, we're gonna make the proposed stormwater completely separate from the existing. So it would be the roof and this driveway area would all be filtered and controlled to the back, where we would mediate peak discharge before, outletting towards the wetland, while maintaining current drainage system that's existing. Whereas option 2, the building conflicts with the existing stormwater, and we'd have to regrade the entire inlet, adding catch basins and piping to get it down to the back. So it's both possible. It's just each one has their pros and cons.
The other thing that, as we move forward in terms of the cost estimating, I think that what we will do is to look at that drive-through in this scheme as an add alternate or a deduct alternate. If you remove that drive-through capability, you significantly reduce the amount of
ledge
removal within the scheme. But it also, that drive-through also allows better access to the back of the building for fire access. So there are trade-offs both ways.
Barry.
Yes, I have one more question.
Okay, I recognize you, George, then Barry. Okay, go ahead, George.
Okay, the quick question is this, Hank, you could probably answer this, but our intention is to put solar panels on these buildings. Which is the best to do that with, option 2 or option 6? Sounds like it might be option 6.
Well, actually, option 2 would have some south-facing roof. So south is to the bottom, and is that correct, Tyler? Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
north is up page.
Yeah.
So 2 might be better?
2 might be better, but then there's, depending on the amount of tree cover that's left after the blasting, that would impact it as well. I think it might impact both schemes. And the pitch of the roof is very nominal, like 4%. So,
but I was thinking of the fact that there's 2 separate buildings. How are you going to connect them? You'd have to
For
kind of
solar.
right?
Yeah.
With option 6, you can make it all one system.
potentially. And all of this is still assuming we can get state approval for 2 facilities on a single site. So
I'm assuming that cooler heads will prevail at some point and people will start being smart about this stuff.
I certainly hope so.
You never know with the state. It's taken forever to get no answers so far. But anyway, from the point of view of, we're not going to design it now, but from the point of view of putting panels on this complex, I think 6 looks like it may have some advantages over 2, but that's something to just think about before we've come up with our final conclusion.
Yeah, and the design team will be looking at 2 options in terms of heating and cooling the building. One will be ground source heat pumps, and the other will be air source heat pumps. And if they're air source heat pumps, then we might look at a condition where those air source heat pumps would actually be internal to the building envelope with louvers, something similar to what we just constructed at Emery Grover.
Yeah.
And what we understand from the folks at DPW is that having air conditioning in here will be a real benefit in terms of personnel retainage, and it'll also mean that the doors are largely closed most of the year.
It'll certainly be much easier to maintain some of these vehicles if the room is at least reasonably conditioned.
Yes.
Hank, could I add one small point on the solar that we're thinking about? Option 6, and this would be good for the committee to kind of envision. Option 6 has a singular roof, other than that lower 12-foot wide white patch right there. That's a small lobby, small roof area. Other than that, the entire roof is one level. So it's all a singular roof. On option 6, you'll remember the employee spaces that were part of the L, that's a single story structure. So that wouldn't lend itself to have panels. So you're losing that much roof. So just in terms of area, option 6 has more opportunity for roof area for panels.
In terms of gross square footage, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
All right, just food for thought.
Gary, did you have a question? Your hand is up.
I did. I had a question and comment. So I can solve the problem with a loss of square footage from option 2 is we put a canopy over the parking area and make it contiguous from the existing Jack Cogswell now. I was just watching it. I'm like, why don't we put a canopy over there? But we certainly should consider solar during this project. so just a couple comments. I don't think the break room should be shared with the multi-purpose room. I think, you know, they should have their own break room where they have a kitchenette, they have refrigerators. This is a kind of an isolated area. It's really far away from the rest of Needham, and sharing it with the multi-purpose room, sharing with other functions could interrupt either, you know, meetings or people's lunches. So just something to make note of. The other, you know, getting parts storage and deliveries into that room way in the corner might be difficult coming through the bays. Just something to consider where that's located. And then I had a question because I can't see with option 6. Let's just, and you have that drive-through on the welding bay. I'm sorry, not on the welding bay, on the double depth drive-through. That is definitely blown up. If you come out of the driveway next to where the last parking spot is, what's the distance between that corner of the building and the last parking spot? I'm sorry, I just can't see that. Is that 10 feet? What is that? Oh, 18 feet. Okay.
Well,
All right,
there's an exterior which is also outside, so it's an exterior wash bay,
yeah.
which is 20 feet, and then you have 24-foot drive aisle.
I just couldn't see that dimension. I thought it was real. I thought it was narrower than that, but that's 18 feet.
But yeah, you should be able to drive over this knockdown pad. So
Yeah.
it's not a building here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, those are just my questions and comments.
Terrific. Okay. We are running way behind schedule, so I'm going to ask that any final comments and then sense of the committee as to direction we'd like to see the project go in. Hank, I don't think we need a formal motion, do we? Just simply a sense of the committee, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, so any final comments, and then you know, I'll certainly put forth my recommendation that we proceed with concept 6. I think that clearly is the better approach from my perspective in a number of for a number of reasons that have been set forth tonight. But that would be my opinion, and I'll ask others to if they share the same view. Any comments?
Did I think, Hank, you may have made a comment, or somebody did, that excluding the drive-through was, maybe we look at that as an adult, correct?
Yeah, I think we would definitely through schematic and DD, we'd
Yeah.
want to know what the cost differential is on that.
That's big. That's big. I think it's, yeah, one bay being able to drive in and out around that may not be worth the amount of additional cost.
Erwin, you have a question?
No, you were asking for other comments about option 6, and I would agree. What attracted me to option 6 was the bigger turnaround areas. I could see there being problems in the future with the narrower areas there, especially on the snow conditions and other. I think it's better having a bigger area to turn around.
Other questions or comments? Okay, Bob, yes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick, I concur, I think it was Barry, option 6, but concerned about the drive-through bay, acknowledging I wasn't involved with earlier studies and the working group. I don't know the demand for that by the user, but would like that to be looked at because it does seem to affect the site work dramatically. That's all.
Yep.
All right, so is the committee satisfied that option 6 would be the better approach, and we would recommend that project go forward on that basis? We good with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. All right, very good. I think with that, we can probably move on to our next agenda item. I'd like to thank again our 3 panelists, Michael, Tyler, and David. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. Excellent presentation, very, very helpful and cogent, and much appreciated.
Thank you
Thank
very
you very
much.
much.
Thank you. And we will come back once we have the cost estimates reconciled
Terrific.
to review those with the committee.
Excellent.
Be-
Okay.
It would be nice, Hank, to keep an eye on that ledge removal in the back and how much option 6 really affects that, because that may be a number that is bigger than we think right now, but
Yeah.
something to keep an eye on. It may, if it's too big, it may shift you back to option 2.
Or to eliminate the drive-through
Right. That may
and-
eliminate enough ledge to make it worthwhile putting it there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Very good.
Okay, so we'll move on to the library phase 1 design.
Yep.
And sorry, Erhard and Rob, thank you for joining us this evening.
And thank you for your patience.
And we have Nicole from UTEAL. I distributed the presentation that she put together. I realized I didn't send it out until this morning. So Nicole, if you want to share your screen, we could just start walking through that presentation.
Sure. Yep, we'll do. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
And
Okay.
and when we last left this, we had finished the feasibility, and this is focusing on phase 1, which is the teen space or young adult area within the library. So Nicole, floor is yours.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. It's great to meet you. As Hank mentioned, my name is Nicole Ramey, and I'm the project manager from UTEAL for the Needham Public Library project. So I'll just run through our presentation and get you up to date on where we are right now. So just a quick summary of what we'll review. I'll just give you a quick outline of the schedule, a recap in case anyone's not familiar with the 4 priority projects that we set out during the space utilization study. And then we can review the SD design proposals and discuss some of the alternates that we're pricing specifically to deal with some of the temperature control issues in the existing teen space. And then answer any questions. I know there's already a couple about seating capacity, which we have some information about, and any others that may come up. So we've been working closely with Hank and with Rob, as well as the library committee, to develop some options for the schematic design. And we've also been working with our consultant team to develop narratives, which we sent out for pricing a couple of weeks ago. Last year, we went through a space utilization study, which involved gaining stakeholder input from a variety of different sources and kind of coalescing that into a series of priority projects for the library, developing a budget, and then now we're moving forward into the design process for phase 1, which is focused on the teen space within the upper level of the library. So we sent out our documents for the cost estimator a couple of weeks ago, and we're expecting to get some numbers back next week, which we will reconcile before our next conversation. And so just running through sort of a recap of the priority projects and also just pulling up the existing floor plans for reference. During this phase, we'll be focused here on the second floor in the teen zone. This is showing the existing teen space as currently laid out. The way I understand it is that currently during peak hours, teens actually realistically occupy, a much larger zone here to the west of the stair, and then also south in this world language zone. So the teen space is quite undersized. I'll also just point out that currently these 3 walls around the teen zone are glass, and there are some issues with temperature control within that zone. So we're also looking at ways to mitigate that. So again, this is phase 1 where we're focusing now. In future phases, we'll be looking at the children's zone on the lower level. We'll also be focusing on the Rosemary entrance and the new multi-purpose room and the entrance here at Highland. And so just pointing out that right now we are sort of showing some tables and chairs and different configurations in this Highland zone, but that is a future phase, and there's going to be further conversation about exactly how that will be configured. So this drawing here is from our space utilization study, and it's just showing the program that is desired within this teen space. As you can see, the density of seating is much higher than is currently shown, in the existing plans. There's a desire to create a diversity of seating opportunities. So you know, a focus study corral, a banquet, group seating tables, and we want to create a variety of opportunities for different kinds of interaction and study. We're also looking at consolidating the collection and prioritizing seating. So the library team has been thinking carefully about exactly how they want to bring this team collection forward and what they want to, you know, leave room for expansion and things that they can also contract. So following the space utilization study, we met over the past several months with members of the library team and came up with some additional criteria that we wanted to build into the schematic design. One comment which has impacted our plans is that we actually do want to have a larger collection than is being shown in this plan and make sure that there's room for expansion in the future. You know, we wouldn't want to build this space and then find out that we couldn't fit the quantity of collection that is needed down the line. So we're building in a little bit of extra room for expansion within the collection. And then another comment was to preserve a walkway on this side of the stair as well. This wall here is an important gallery space, and we want to make sure that the circulation isn't, you know, only on this side. So we're also looking at opening up circulation on both sides of the stair. And in response to kind of losing this space here, we're also looking at kind of reallocating that space here on the east side of the team space. I'll also point out that acoustic separation is a priority, and so this wall that's being shown is a full height wall going up to the slab, and we will have glass included. We also are prioritizing bringing natural light through the space and letting it permeate to the rest of the library as well. Jumping ahead. So one thing we did at the beginning of schematic design was to gather a lot of the comments, both from the stakeholder input from the study phase, as well as from the library committee, and try to coalesce that into a series of zones within the teen space. So, you know, some of the programming requests were to have an area that was flexible, where the furniture could move around, where it would be comfortable to gather, might be suitable for something like a movie night or video games, board games. So kind of a space that is open to different types of programming. Another zone that we started to develop was a craft cafe area. Cafe more meaning just that someone may be comfortable eating there, then there's actually anything served, but the furniture and the flooring would be easily cleanable. It would also be suitable for programming such as arts and crafts and things that, you know, would require that type of easily cleanable surfaces. Another high priority area is the quiet work area. There were many requests for more study corrals and more opportunities for individual focused study. So that's a zone that we're also building in. And then a group study area where, you know, it's still intended for focused study, but in larger groups, and there would still be conversation in that zone. And the stacks, you'll see we're using the stacks to divide the space and to create some separation between these different zones. And then we're also placing a librarian's desk within the teen zone at a central location so that they can have ability to observe these different areas within the space. So we looked at a few different configurations, and we felt that the best organization of the space was that when you enter into the space where there's a lot of foot traffic, the types of zones that you might have group gatherings or craft activities would be suitable to be in those higher foot traffic areas. And then as you move towards the back of the space, there'd be a division both maybe in floor material and also utilizing the stacks to create some division to indicate that these spaces are more dedicated for focused study. The quiet study area, we're actually preserving the glass wall, so this can be fully partitioned off acoustically to create a more focused study zone here in the back. Breaking the space down further, the lounge zone is here. you know, this would be for gathering, but still within the parameters of a library, so it won't, you know, be a extremely large space just within, compared to the quiet study space, it's a space where someone might be comfortable having a conversation as opposed to needing to maintain full silence. The craft cafe area is here under the skylight, so it'll be receiving a lot of nice natural light from above. And the quiet study area again is kind of in the back where the current teen space is located. And we're bringing in several different types of furniture that would allow for individual study. And then moving into the plan, this was option 1A was an option where we had a configuration where everyone was quite happy with the way that the spaces were laid out, but still had the comment that we needed to fit in some more collections into the space. And at this point, we had already carved out the space along the stair, but we hadn't yet recaptured any space here to the east. So we did a couple of calculations and looked at how much space was lost and looked at pushing out this wall to recapture the same quantity of square footage. And so this option 1B plan is the plan that we landed on, which, as you can see, accommodates a larger amount of collections and retains the original square footage that was set out in the study, in the space utilization study. This slide is showing some quantities. We're actually maintaining the quantity of shelving that is currently allocated towards young adult stacks, but some of these different categories will be reduced and some will be increased, and the net result will be that we will have room for expansion in the future as needed. And then here the seating count is at 89, and this will accommodate a variety of different seating opportunities, from banquette seating to booth seating to some study corrals and different types of flexible seating within the lounge and the cafe area. This slide is looking at a 3D representation to help visualize the space. As you can see, this wall that surrounds the space will be full height. Up at the higher levels, we're looking at introducing glazing to allow the light from the clear story to permeate through to the rest of the library. And we're also looking at some options for shading from the interior here in the teen space. And I can see that there's a hand up, so maybe I'll pause to let Lynn respond.
Lynn?
I was just gonna ask a quick question. In the plan, it looked like you had 6-foot shelves as a divider between the rest of the library and the teen space. And then in the ISO, it shows it shorter in terms of view. And I'm just wondering which one is correct, or if I'm misunderstanding that, because it feels like in the plan, the view into the space would be fairly isolated. And in this one, it looks like it's far more open relative to the door height.
Yeah, so these are 6-foot shelves here. We have this mullion here is I believe at about 9 feet, but that's aligning with a drop in the ceiling towards the back.
So we're okay with blocking the visual access into the space from the main library?
On this edge, we're showing a 6-foot partition, and then here we're showing a lower wall along the stair that's at 3 feet. So the idea was to allow the light that's coming in to pass through and to permeate this space and to create a little bit more privacy. We understood that it was important to create some privacy between the seating zone and the teen zone, both acoustically and visually. So our wall that surrounds the space will provide acoustic isolation. And on this edge, we were looking to provide some visual isolation as well.
Nicole, where would the library staff person be situated in that graphic?
Yeah, so the library staff desk is right here. And this will allow views into the lounge and the craft cafe area, as well as these shelves here are at a lower height to allow for views back into the quiet space as well.
Thank you.
And the majority of these elements are furniture pieces. These two elements here along the window, the curtain wall here, as well as in the lounge are millwork elements. So in both cases, we're looking at, in this case, we're looking to potentially provide some sun shading, internal sun shading, as well as some privacy for these study corrals. And then in the lounge zone, we may look at some screening options that provide some privacy within the lounge space while still allowing visual permeability to the other zones. And this is just looking at from another angle. Yeah, you can see that the shelves here are at a higher height. We're attempting to get these shelves to be a little bit lower. I think we may have done a little bit of rejiggering since this was developed, and we're trying to get these to be at a lower height, but just given the quantity of shelves, we may need a few to be a little bit taller. These are some just reference images for interior screens. We're still developing this option, and in our pricing, we included a couple of alternates. So during design development, we will be developing this element further. And then this slide is showing some of the variety of seating options that we're proposing, you know, different types of individual seating, as well as some booth seating here in the group area, and then flexible seating options in the lounge and in the cafe area.
Erwin, you have a question?
Yes, yes, I do. The 3D rendering that you showed, it said option 1A. Is it similar for 1B, or what would be the difference? Because I don't see a 1B 3D.
You know, I apologize. I think this is mislabeled. This is the 1B scheme that has the increased quantity of shelving.
Okay.
So, yes.
Gerhard and Rob, any questions, comments you'd like to share with the committee in terms of the presentation thus far?
None from me right now. We got to see a slightly earlier version of this at the trustee meeting a month ago, and so it's exciting to see some of the ways that it's advanced since then. I'm excited about the furniture options, especially those particular like mini cubicle things. I've been using those in the morning at Northeastern University's library recently, and they're great. And so I'm excited to see some of these elements that I think work really well.
Terrific. Great. Any questions, comments from the committee? Oh, I see Bob, you have a question.
Yes, thanks, Rich. And thanks for the presentation, Nicole. This is very exciting. And as a frequent user of the library space, I'm thrilled the teens will have more space. But one comment or perhaps question on that west wall where there are the individual study carrels, and I do understand sun shading is an issue given it's the west wall and it's glazed, but there are also the best views from the building are from that spot. And I'm wondering if that will be considered as well, if the shading devices will be flexible or movable in any way. I'd just like some thought to be given to that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that we were looking at, you know, some vertical elements that would be spaced in such a way to still allow views out, but that at the certain times of day when it was needed would block direct light into the space. So we definitely balancing those two elements.
Great, thank you very much.
And I should point out that the most efficient way to block the heat energy coming in would be to put the screening on the outside of the building. And that's one of the alternates that's being priced. To date, we haven't assumed that there'd be any changes to the outside, but it would be more efficient if that sun screening were on the exterior of the building as opposed to the interior.
Hank, how would you do that?
Yeah. That we still have to sort out.
I can't picture it happening.
Nicole, maybe you want to chime in, but as I understand it, we do have a window wall system that would have to be assessed structurally whether we could add additional elements to that. both vertical and horizontal louvers.
You'd
But-
almost have to take all of that glass out of there and put in a new window wall that'll enable you to do that. That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it's only conceptual at this point, but Nicole, you want to chime in?
Yeah, at this point, we haven't put much, really any time towards designing and studying this. We just put some elements in for pricing. We were looking at an option that would connect to the existing mullions. And again, as Hank mentioned, we'll need to do further assessment when we get back the pricing from that to confirm that this particular window wall is going to, work with the products that we had selected and that sort of thing. We just wanted to kind of get a number to see if it's even something we want to consider pursuing further.
Stuart.
Yeah, thanks. I just have a couple of questions. It might be more for the user group discussion, but first, noise. And it seems that the walls that you got in, I don't know if we can go back to the isometric, that might be a better thing to see. So those walls and the two doorways help to basically contain the noise, so to speak, in the tween area?
Yeah, so a combination of things that this will provide acoustic separation around the teen space. And then additionally, we will look to include soft surfaces to create sound absorption within the space itself. There also, there will be, background noise from mechanical systems and that sort of thing that does help mask sound. So it's a kind of a combination of, isolation from the wall, soft surfaces within the space, and then the potential existing or increased white noise within the library itself.
And potentially some enhancement to the ceiling plane to create additional sound absorptive up in the ceiling area.
But those walls aren't going to carry to the ceiling, are they, or are they?
They will, yes.
Okay. And then I know there was a question earlier, I'm not sure if I understood, but is there going to be a person or persons at a front desk right there in that second entranceway that's going to be monitoring it, you're saying?
Yes, there's a dedicated teen librarian desk here in the middle of the space. And then we're also looking to maintain views we're kind of thinking ahead towards the future location of the reference librarian, which is more centrally located. So that was part of the driving factor of keeping this wall low to maintain views into the space from the reference desk as well. So,
but can you actually see across? So where your cursor is, if you move it just up a little bit, move your cursor up by the desk. In that area, are those interior walls? How high are those?
These are 5 feet, so you will
5
be
feet.
able to see over the top of them. But they
Pretty
are
high. Yeah.
on
That's
the-
user group thing. Okay. And then the only other thing I was curious about was sort of usage and what drove the more seating, because I know you got the square footage and you got the collection space. I get that. And I'd like to see more collections, but again, that's user driven. But in terms of usage, the number of seats or seating ability to seat people is there, it's going to increase, I think, with this based on just looking at the different furniture pieces relative to the whole library. Are we losing seating space that was there before that was more general public?
Yeah, actually Hank had forwarded your question, so I did a little bit of calculations that I can
Okay.
share. These are some numbers that I pulled from the plans. So we're getting a net increase of 53 seats just due to the fact that we have a more efficient layout and higher density of seating. And by increasing the density in the teen area, we're actually freeing up seats in the general library zone that were previously occupied by the teens at the high occupancy hours. So this 84 number I can bring back to the existing plans to kind of show what area that encompasses. But if you're looking at, my understanding is that the teens currently really occupy almost all of these seats here at high occupancy hours. So that is 84 seats. And now we're including 89 within the teen zone itself. So all these seats that are here and in this area are now freed up for the general use.
Right. So just to play back, you're saying that we're gaining How many seats? 50, we're gaining an additional 53 seats in that area.
We're gaining a additional 53 seats overall, yeah, in that kind of wider zone, including world languages. And then that by consolidating more of that seating into the teen area, it's freeing up seating that's outside of that zone.
Right.
So it's actually as a result of moving more of the teen seating into that zone, there's actually more seating for the general population available.
That's great. So I presume the user committee, and the group and the library trustee stuff want that versus the change saying that there's less public, we might as well just give more to teens.
And again, I guess to point out that phase one, we're really only focused on the teen area. So right now, this number is based on counting up just the idea of having all of these as tables in this zone. But we had talked with Rob and the library team that maybe this would be better utilized as individual study rooms or potential shelving. So in phase four, when we look at the Highland entrance, we can kind of calibrate whether the general population needs more seating or needs more study rooms, or how that space should be best utilized.
Great, thank you. Excellent.
Did I miss it, or has there been discussion about any effects of these things on circulation of both heat and cooling?
Yeah. So we can go to this page where Hank already mentioned that we're looking at a little bit of pricing for exterior shading. Again, preliminary, just to get some numbers to that. And then we're also looking at some alternates for the mechanical system. Based on our mechanical engineer's analysis, the existing FCUs are nearing the end of their useful life, and they only have 2 years remaining out of 20 useful years. So right now within our narratives, we have a couple alternates. One involves replacing the FCUs in that zone, which was not originally in the budget. So that's why we included it as an add alternate, which is something that may be worth considering.
I can see the dollar. I can see the dollars going up now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right, Hank, anything that you need from the committee at this point? Thank you for the excellent presentation, Nicole. Hank?
I think there are no decisions. We wanted to give you an update in terms of where we were on the design. These schematic plans are out with the cost estimators, and we will come back to the committee either the end of this month or early October. Once we have that in hand, and we may have to look at some VE, but we do know that the getting the proper mechanical into the space will be a very important aspect.
Very good. Well, with that, if there are no further questions or comments, I'd like to move on to the next agenda item. And thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Rob and Earhart for joining us this evening. Appreciate it very much.
There is one voting item.
Oh, yes, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Catherine. There is one invoice. The chair will move that the committee approve the invoice from Util Incorporated for July 2024 services in the amount of $28,935.00 coming from the architectural budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Bob. Any discussion, comments, or questions? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the roll call vote. Stuart?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Irwin?
Aye.
Earhart?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Thank you. And the chair votes aye. Thank you very much for that. And I believe, I think that concludes our discussion of the library renovation project. Any other final comments before we move on to our next agenda item?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nicole.
Great, thank you very much. I'll appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Nicole.
We
Thank
have
you.
one additional voting item, and that is on the school master plan for services rendered in August 2024 by Doran Whittier Architects. The chair will move that the committee approve the invoice for payment from Doran Whittier Architects for services rendered through August 2024 in the amount of $2,023.00 from the architectural budget. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. Any discussion or perhaps any comment on what this represents, Hank?
Yes, Mr. Chair, yeah, that's my question. Is there a document? I didn't see any in the
Right.
emails and things, what we're getting for this.
Oh, they have been assisting the town, putting together data and information during the statement of interest application to the MSBA. So it's pretty much delayed in terms of their billing, but this is the last of the billings in the school master plan study.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
That was a good question.
Absolutely.
Thank you, George.
It's all right. I had the same one.
And- All right, we will proceed to a roll call vote. We don't think we have any user representatives here for the school master plan, so we'll just keep it in-house. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Irwin,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you very much for that. I think that concludes our invoices for this evening, and we then can move on to PBBC new business. The only item I would note is that the CPC is having an informational session coming up. An email was sent to the committee about that, so I encourage certainly to participate. Hank, anything on your end for the committee?
Only that I've heard the school department and MSBA are continuing to negotiate on the enrollment for the Pollard project. And so we're waiting to hear from the MSBA if and when they would invite us to the board meeting for approval. Could be as early as October, but otherwise it'd be December.
Yeah, very good. Keep us posted. And any other comments from the staff or the committee regarding new business? Okay, all right, hearing none, we can proceed to the motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Certainly.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Yes.
Second.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Roll call vote. Stuart,
Aye.
Lynn,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Irwin,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Thank you very much for terrific meeting tonight. Really appreciate it. Very informative and productive. Thank you all very much. Catherine, if you could stay on just for a moment after we wrap up, so I can just coordinate with you on the invoices.
Go Patriots.
1-0.
Thank you all.